Welcome to Thought Grid. In the vast, anonymous expanse of the internet, where stories are shared and secrets are whispered, there exists a corner where the line between fiction and terrifying reality blurs. Tonight, we delve into the chilling depths of Reddit, a place where ordinary people recount experiences so disturbing, so utterly bizarre, that they feel too real to be mere tales. These aren't just creepypastas. These are accounts that resonate with a profound sense of unease, leaving you to wonder, what if? Before we begin, if these stories send shivers down your spine, please remember to like this video and subscribe to Thought Grid for more chilling tales. Now, let's begin. Story 1. The Glitch in the Simulation. This first unsettling account comes from a Reddit user named Reality Glitcher, who posted their experience in the r/glitch in the Matrix subreddit in late 2021. The user described a series of increasingly bizarre and unsettling occurrences that led them to question the very fabric of their reality. It began subtly, with minor discrepancies in their daily routine. A coffee cup they distinctly remembered placing on the left side of their desk would inexplicably appear on the right. A specific song they were listening to on repeat would suddenly skip to a different track, only to resume the original song moments later, as if the skip had never happened. These minor glitches escalated. One morning, Reality Glitcher woke up to find their apartment completely rearranged. Furniture was in different positions, artwork had been swapped, and even the color of their curtains seemed to have changed. They initially assumed they were dreaming or perhaps had a severe case of sleepwalking, but the changes persisted throughout the day. Their roommate, when questioned, denied any involvement and seemed genuinely confused by Reality Glitcher's frantic inquiries. The roommate insisted everything was as it always had been, even pointing to a photograph taken just the day before that showed the apartment in its current, rearranged state. This sent a chill down Reality Glitcher's spine. The glitches became more personal. Conversations they had with friends would be subtly altered in their memory, with key phrases or entire sentences missing or replaced. They would find themselves in places they had no recollection of going, with no explanation for how they got there. The world around them began to feel like a poorly rendered simulation, with inconsistencies and errors popping up with alarming frequency. They started to document these occurrences, taking photos and writing detailed notes, but even their documentation seemed to be affected, with images corrupting and text changing on its own. The true horror began when Reality Glitcher started to encounter duplicates. They would see people they knew, friends, family members, even themselves, in two places at once. Once, while walking down a busy street, they saw their best friend waving at them from across the road, only to turn and find the same friend standing right beside them, engaged in a conversation with someone else. The duplicate across the street vanished the moment Reality Glitcher looked away, leaving them disoriented and terrified. These duplicates were always silent, always fleeting, and always seemed to be slightly off, their movements a little too fluid, their expressions a little too blank. Their mental state began to deteriorate. They became paranoid, constantly checking their surroundings for inconsistencies, questioning every interaction. Sleep offered no escape, as their dreams became vivid, hyper-realistic simulations of their waking glitches, blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. They started to believe that they were trapped in a failing simulation, and that the glitches were signs of its imminent collapse, or perhaps a desperate attempt by something within the simulation to communicate with them. The climax of their ordeal occurred when they were at home, alone, late one night. The lights in their apartment began to flicker wildly, the television static, and a low, humming sound filled the air, growing steadily louder. The furniture in the room began to vibrate, then to subtly shift, as if the very atoms of their reality were struggling to maintain their form. Reality Glitcher huddled in a corner, terrified as the walls seemed to ripple, the floor to undulate. Then, a voice, synthesized and distorted, echoed through the room, seemingly coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. Error, reality integrity compromised. Reboot initiated. The humming intensified, reaching a deafening crescendo, and then everything went black. Reality Glitcher woke up in their bed, the morning sun streaming through their window. Their apartment was exactly as it had been before the glitches started. The coffee cup was on the left side of the desk. The curtains were the original color. Their roommate greeted them as usual, completely unaware of anything amiss. Reality Glitcher frantically checked their phone for the photos and notes they had taken, but they were all gone. There was no trace of the glitches, no evidence that anything out of the ordinary had ever happened. They tried to explain their experience to their roommate, but were met with blank stares and concerned glances. They never posted on Reddit again. The experience left them with a profound sense of unease, a chilling understanding that their reality, and perhaps everyone else's, was far more fragile and malleable than they had ever imagined. They still occasionally catch a fleeting glimpse of a duplicate in a crowd, or notice a subtle shift in their surroundings that no one else seems to perceive. The incident left an indelible mark on them, a chilling reminder that some truths are too disturbing to comprehend, and some realities are merely simulations, waiting for the next reboot. And sometimes, the most terrifying horror is not what you see, but what you can no longer trust to be real. Story 2. The Shadow in the Webcam. This next chilling account comes from a Reddit user named AnonGamerGirl, who shared her terrifying ordeal in the r/nosleep subreddit in early 2022. She was a dedicated online gamer, spending countless hours in virtual worlds, often streaming her gameplay to a small but loyal audience. Her setup was typical: a powerful gaming PC, a high-quality microphone, and a webcam that captured her reactions for her viewers. She was meticulous about her privacy, always ensuring her background was clear and her personal information was never revealed. Or so she thought. The incidents began subtly. During her late-night streaming sessions, she would occasionally catch a fleeting glimpse of something in the periphery of her webcam's view. A shadow, a distortion, something that wasn't quite right. She dismissed it as a trick of the light, or perhaps a minor technical glitch with her streaming software. Her viewers, however, began to comment. "Did you see that? What was that in the background? Your shadow looks weird." She would review her past broadcasts, but the anomalies were always too quick, too indistinct to confirm, appearing only as faint blurs or momentary pixelations. The anomalies escalated. The shadow began to take on a more defined shape. It was tall, slender, and seemed to move with an unnatural fluidity, always just out of direct sight, always lurking in the edges of her webcam's frame. It never made a sound, never interacted with her directly, but its presence was undeniably chilling. She started to feel a profound sense of unease during her streams, a constant awareness of being watched, even when she was alone in her room. She would frequently glance at her webcam, a cold dread settling in her stomach, but the shadow would always vanish the moment she focused on it. Her online community, initially amused by the ghost in her streams, grew increasingly concerned. They started to analyze her past broadcasts, slowing down the footage, enhancing the images, trying to pinpoint the elusive entity. They found patterns. The shadow always appeared when she was particularly engrossed in her game, when her attention was fully diverted. It seemed to feed on her distraction, growing bolder with each appearance. The true horror began when the shadow started to interact with her environment. Objects in her room would subtly shift. A book on her shelf would be slightly ajar. A picture frame would be tilted. Once, during a particularly intense gaming session, her desk lamp, which was unplugged, flickered on and off. She would pause her stream, investigate, but find nothing amiss. The shadow, however, would be clearly visible in her webcam's feed, its form more distinct, its presence more menacing, as if it was taunting her, playing a cruel game. Her sleep became restless. She would wake up in the middle of the night, convinced she heard faint whispers coming from her computer or felt a cold breath on her neck. She started to experience vivid, terrifying nightmares, dreams of being trapped in a dark room, surrounded by unseen entities, their cold, skeletal fingers reaching out for her. The line between her waking and sleeping horrors began to blur, leaving her exhausted and terrified. The climax of her ordeal occurred during a live stream. She was playing a horror game, her reactions amplified for her audience, when the shadow appeared directly behind her, clearly visible in her webcam's feed. It was no longer a blur, but a distinct humanoid figure, tall and gaunt, its features obscured by the darkness, but its presence undeniably malevolent. Her viewers erupted in the chat, screaming warnings, urging her to look behind her. She saw their frantic messages, her heart pounding, and slowly, hesitantly, turned around. There was nothing there. Her room was empty, silent, save for the hum of her computer. She turned back to her screen, confused, and saw the shadow still there, its head tilted, as if observing her reaction. It was then that she realized the horrifying truth. The shadow wasn't in her room. It was in her webcam. It was looking out from her webcam, into her stream, into the world. It was using her stream as a window, a portal. As she stared at the screen, the shadow began to move. It reached out a long, skeletal hand, not towards her, but towards the camera lens. The image on her screen distorted, pixelated, then dissolved into pure static. Her stream crashed, her computer shut down. She was left in the dark, alone, the silence of her room suddenly deafening. She never streamed again. She sold her gaming PC, dismantled her setup, and even covered her laptop's webcam with tape. The experience left her with a profound sense of paranoia, a chilling understanding that the digital world, which she had once considered a safe escape, could be a gateway for something far more sinister. She still occasionally feels a cold breath on her neck or catches a fleeting glimpse of a shadow in her peripheral vision, a constant reminder that something had looked out from her webcam and perhaps was still watching. The incident left an indelible mark on her, a chilling reminder that some horrors are not confined to the virtual world, but can reach out and touch you, even through a screen. And sometimes, the most terrifying monsters are not in the game, but watching you play. Story 3. The Echoing Subreddit. Our final and perhaps most existentially terrifying account comes from a Reddit user named Lost in Echoes, who posted their chilling experience in the r/Unexplained subreddit in mid-2023. The user described a gradual descent into a bizarre and unsettling online phenomenon that blurred the lines between their digital and real lives. It began with a seemingly innocuous discovery, a small, obscure subreddit dedicated to documenting strange, almost imperceptible echoes in everyday life. These weren't auditory echoes, but rather repetitions of events, phrases, or even entire conversations that seemed to occur slightly out of sync or in an uncanny, familiar way. Lost in Echoes initially found the subreddit fascinating, a quirky collection of anecdotal oddities. Users would post about hearing a conversation on the street that mirrored one they'd had hours earlier, or seeing a specific, unusual object appear in multiple, unrelated contexts. The posts were often accompanied by a sense of profound unease, a feeling that something was subtly wrong with the world. Lost in Echoes themselves began to notice these echoes in their own life. A particular phrase from a book they were reading would pop up in a random television show later that day. A stranger on the bus would hum a tune that had been stuck in their head all morning. These were minor, easily dismissible coincidences, but the subreddit had primed them to notice. The echoes became more frequent, more precise, and more disturbing. They started to experience entire moments of déjà vu, Not just a fleeting feeling, but a complete, vivid replay of a recent event, down to the smallest detail. They would walk into a room, and for a split second, experience the exact same conversation, the exact same movements, the exact same emotions they had felt moments or even hours before. It was like living in a broken record, constantly skipping back to a previous groove. The subreddit, which had once been a source of shared curiosity, began to feel like a support group for those trapped in a looping reality. Their mental state began to fray. They found it increasingly difficult to distinguish between what was happening for the first time and what was an echo. Conversations became a minefield of potential repetitions, leading to awkward pauses and confused glances from friends and family. Sleep offered no respite, as their dreams became a chaotic jumble of echoing moments, replaying their waking horrors in an endless, disorienting loop. They started to believe that the subreddit wasn't just documenting echoes. It was somehow creating them, or perhaps amplifying a pre-existing flaw in reality. The true horror began when the echoes started to manifest physically. Objects would appear and disappear, only to reappear moments later in the exact same spot. A glass of water they had just drunk would be full again. A message they had just sent would reappear in their outbox as unread. It was as if their reality was constantly resetting, a faulty program struggling to maintain its state. The other users on the subreddit reported similar, escalating phenomena, their posts growing increasingly desperate, filled with a shared sense of impending doom. The climax of their ordeal occurred when Lost in Echoes was reading a particularly disturbing post on the subreddit. The user, who had been experiencing extreme echoes, described a moment where they saw themselves, a duplicate, sitting across from them, mirroring their every move. As Lost in Echoes read this, they felt a profound sense of dread. They looked up from their screen, and there, sitting across from them, was another Lost in Echoes, mirroring their every move, their eyes wide with the same terror. The duplicate was silent, its movements perfectly synchronized, a chilling reflection of their own existence. Lost in Echoes screamed, a sound that seemed to echo back at them, slightly delayed. The duplicate screamed too, its voice a perfect, horrifying mimicry. They tried to move, to break the terrifying symmetry, but the duplicate moved with them, a perfect, inescapable mirror. The room began to distort, the walls rippling, the floor undulating, just as Reality Glitcher had described. The air grew heavy, thick with a strange, metallic scent, and a low humming sound filled the room, growing steadily louder. The words from the Reddit post, the chilling description of the duplicate, seemed to manifest before their very eyes. Then, a new voice, synthesized and distorted, echoed through the room, seemingly coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. It was the same voice that Reality Glitcher had heard. Error, reality integrity compromised, reboot initiated. The humming intensified, reaching a deafening crescendo, and then everything went black. Lost in Echoes woke up in their bed, the morning sun streaming through their window. Their apartment was exactly as it had been before the echoes started. The book they were reading was on their nightstand, open to the page they had been on. There was no trace of the subreddit, no evidence that anything out of the ordinary had ever happened. They tried to search for the subreddit, but it was gone, vanished from the internet, leaving no trace. They never posted on Reddit again. The experience left them with a profound sense of unease, a chilling understanding that their reality, and perhaps everyone else's, was far more fragile and malleable than they had ever imagined. They still occasionally catch a fleeting glimpse of an echo in their daily life, a subtle repetition that no one else seems to perceive. The incident left an indelible mark on them, a chilling reminder that some online communities are not just forums for discussion, but gateways to a reality far more disturbing than any fiction. And sometimes, the most terrifying horror is not what you read, but what you become a part of, a living echo in a world that is constantly resetting, constantly replaying its own nightmares. Conclusion. These three accounts, drawn from the chilling realities of online horror, serve as a stark reminder that the digital world, while offering connection and information, can also be a conduit for profound unease and existential dread. Each story, unique in its manifestation, shares a common thread: the blurring of lines between the virtual and the real, and the terrifying consequences of encountering phenomena that defy our understanding of reality. The glitch in the simulation narrative plunges us into the terrifying possibility that our perceived reality is nothing more than a meticulously crafted illusion, prone to errors and reboots. It taps into a primal fear of losing control, of being a mere pawn in a larger, unseen game. The subtle inconsistencies, the duplicated individuals, and the ultimate reboot leave a chilling impression, forcing us to question the very fabric of our existence. This story is a testament to the fact that sometimes the most disturbing horror is not what you see, but what you can no longer trust to be real. The shadow in the Webcam account explores the insidious nature of digital intrusion, where a seemingly innocuous device becomes a window for something malevolent. It preys on our increasing reliance on technology and the false sense of security we often feel within our own homes. The gradual escalation of the shadow's presence, its interaction with the physical environment, and its ultimate revelation as an entity observing from within the webcam creates a profound sense of vulnerability. This narrative serves as a powerful warning that some horrors are not confined to the virtual world, but can reach out and touch you, even through a screen. And the echoing subreddit delves into the unsettling concept of a reality that is constantly looping, constantly replaying its own nightmares. It highlights the dangers of collective obsession and the potential for shared anxieties to manifest in terrifying ways. The escalating echoes, the physical manifestations of repetition, and the chilling appearance of a duplicate self create a sense of inescapable dread. This story is a stark reminder that some online communities are not just forums for discussion, but gateways to a reality far more disturbing than any fiction. These narratives are not mere fiction. They are echoes of real incidents, whispers from the dark corners of our interconnected world. They remind us that the anonymity of the internet, while offering freedom, can also provide a breeding ground for the truly bizarre and the existentially terrifying. The Reddit horror stories serve as a powerful cautionary tale, urging us to remain vigilant, to question the unexplained, and to remember that when you delve into the digital realm, you might not just be exploring information, but encountering a reality far more disturbing than any fiction. The chilling reality of these stories lies in their ability to resonate with our deepest anxieties about technology and the nature of reality itself. They tap into the fear of losing control, of being observed, and of the very ground beneath our feet proving to be unstable. The fact that these stories are shared on platforms like Reddit, often by individuals who claim them to be true, adds another layer of unsettling authenticity. It blurs the line between entertainment and genuine terror, leaving the reader or listener with a lingering sense of unease. Furthermore, the psychological impact of these experiences is profound and long-lasting. The individuals who claim to have lived through these events are often left with a shattered sense of reality, a profound distrust of their own perceptions, and a constant vigilance for the next glitch or echo. The digital world, once a source of connection and entertainment, becomes a landscape of potential threats, a place where the familiar can suddenly turn sinister. These are the true costs of encountering horror that feels too real. These narratives, while disturbing, serve a purpose beyond mere entertainment. They are cautionary tales, echoing the primal fears of losing one's mind, of being trapped in a reality that is not what it seems, and of the insidious ways in which technology can become a conduit for terror. The users, seeking connection and shared experiences, become proxies for the audience, experiencing the gradual erosion of their sense of security and the terrifying realization that some online interactions can lead to a nightmare from which there is no escape. Ultimately, these stories are a testament to the fact that horror doesn't always need a supernatural explanation. Sometimes, the most terrifying things are the ones that could happen to anyone, at any time, in any seemingly safe digital space. The online world, stepping into the heart of connection, inadvertently steps into its nightmares. And the chilling truth is, once you've seen what lurks beneath the surface of normalcy, you can never truly feel safe again. The echoes of these real incidents serve as a stark warning. When you browse the internet, you're not just consuming content. You're potentially opening yourself up to a reality far more disturbing than any fiction. A reality where the line between the mundane and the terrifying blurs, and where the most terrifying monsters are not always the ones with teeth and claws, but the ones that reside in the shadows of the digital realm, waiting patiently for their next victim. The pervasive nature of the internet means that these digital horrors are not confined to a specific location or time. They can reach anyone, anywhere, at any moment. This omnipresence amplifies the fear, transforming the comfort of our personal devices into potential portals for terror. The very tools designed to connect us can become instruments of our undoing, subtly eroding our sense of security and leaving us vulnerable to unseen threats. The anonymity of online interactions, while liberating for some, can also be a shield for those with malevolent intentions, allowing them to operate in the shadows, their true identities hidden, their reach seemingly limitless. This lack of tangible presence makes these digital encounters all the more unsettling, as there is no physical entity to confront, no clear enemy to fight. The horror becomes an abstract, pervasive dread that seeps into every aspect of one's digital life, turning every notification, every new post, into a potential source of terror. It's a new frontier of fear, where the boundaries of reality are constantly tested, and the monsters are not under your bed, but in your browser history, waiting to be rediscovered. The pervasive nature of the internet means that these digital horrors are not confined to a specific location or time. They can reach anyone, anywhere, at any moment. This omnipresence amplifies the fear, transforming the comfort of our personal devices into potential portals for terror. The very tools designed to connect us can become instruments of our undoing, subtly eroding our sense of security and leaving us vulnerable to unseen threats. The anonymity of online interactions, while liberating for some, can also be a shield for those with malevolent intentions, allowing them to operate in the shadows, their true identities hidden, their reach seemingly limitless. This lack of tangible presence makes these digital encounters all the more unsettling, as there is no physical entity to confront, no clear enemy to fight. The horror becomes an abstract, pervasive dread that seeps into every aspect of one's digital life, turning every notification, every new post, into a potential source of terror. It's a new frontier of fear, where the boundaries of reality are constantly tested, and the monsters are not under your bed, but in your browser history, waiting to be rediscovered. The chilling truth is, once you've seen what lurks beneath the surface of normalcy, you can never truly feel safe again. The echoes of these real incidents serve as a stark warning. When you browse the internet, you're not just consuming content. You're potentially opening yourself up to a reality far more disturbing than any fiction. A reality where the line between the mundane and the terrifying blurs, and where the most terrifying monsters are not always the ones with teeth and claws, but the ones that reside in the shadows of the digital realm, waiting patiently for their next victim.